Captain Lee Daho stood on the bridge of his ship, watching the stars through the main window. Earth floated below them, peaceful and quiet. The blue planet looked the same as it had for the past 200 years, protected by the invisible barrier that kept the rest of the galaxy away. Daho was 45 years old and had spent his entire life guarding this barrier. His father had done the same job before him and his grandfather before that. The Lee family had been protecting Earth since the Great Withdrawal, when humanity decided to hide from the galaxy. "Sir, we're getting strange readings again," said Lieutenant Park Minji from her station. She was the ship's science officer and one of the smartest people Daho had ever met. Her dark eyes were focused on the glowing screens in front of her. "Same as yesterday?" Daho asked, walking over to look at her data. "No, sir. These are different, stronger. Something is trying to push through the silent veil." Minji pointed to the energy patterns on her screen. "Look at this. These aren't natural space phenomena, these are ship engines." Daho felt his stomach tighten. For 2 centuries, nothing had tried to break through their barrier. The galaxy had forgotten about humanity, or so they hoped. After the terrible void wars that had cost so many human lives, Earth's leaders decided to disappear. They built the silent veil and told everyone to stay inside it. "How many ships?" Daho asked. "I'm reading at least 30 vessels. Big ones. Military class." Minji's fingers danced across her controls, gathering more information. "Captain, they're not just probing anymore. They're actively trying to break through." Daho pressed a button on his command chair. "Admiral Kim, please report to the bridge." Admiral Kim Taemin arrived within minutes. He was an older man with gray hair and sharp eyes that had seen too many battles. During the Void Wars, he had been a young pilot. Now he controlled all of Earth's space defenses. "What's the situation?" Kim asked, looking at the displays. "Uninvited guests," Daho replied. "They're trying to force their way through the veil." Kim studied the energy readings and frowned. "I recognize these engine signatures. Vorthak Empire ships. I thought they were all dead." "Apparently not," Minji said. "Sir, I'm also detecting crystalline collective vessels. This isn't just one species. This is a combined fleet." Daho and Kim exchanged worried looks. The Vorthak were brutal warriors who conquered planets for fun. The crystalline collective were advanced beings made of living crystal who thought all other life forms were primitive. If these two enemies were working together, something big was happening in the galaxy. "Sir," called Engineer Yoon Sora from her station, "the veil is holding, but they're using some kind of new technology. I've never seen anything like it." Sora was young, maybe 25, but she understood Earth's defense systems better than anyone. Her family had built most of the technology that kept the planet safe. "Can they break through?" Kim asked. "Eventually, yes. Maybe in a few hours if they keep this up." Sora's hands moved quickly over her controls. "But sir, there's something else. I'm getting automated distress signals from the outer colonies." Daho's blood went cold. "What colonies?" "All the human colonies were destroyed in the Void Wars." "That's what we thought," Sora said quietly. "But these signals are definitely human. They're coming from the Kepler sector, the Centauri cluster, and the Vega systems, all places where we had colonies before the withdrawal." "That's impossible," Kim said. "We evacuated everyone. We brought all humans back to Earth before we activated the veil." Dr. Lim Jae-hyun entered the bridge at that moment. He was the ship's historian and knew more about the Void Wars than anyone alive. His job was to remember everything that happened during humanity's darkest time. "Not everyone came home," Lim said quietly. "Some colonies were cut off during the fighting. We assumed they were destroyed, but we never confirmed it. Command decided it was too dangerous to check." "You mean there are humans out there?" "Living. Humans who have been alone for 200 years? Minji asked. "Apparently so," Lim replied. "The question is, what have they been doing all this time?" Suddenly, alarms started ringing throughout the bridge. The main screen lit up with warning messages. "Sir," Sora called out. "They've done it. The veil has been breached. I'm reading ships coming through the barrier." "How many?" Daho demanded. 50? No, 100. Sir, it's a whole fleet. They're surrounding Earth. On the main screen, the alien ships appeared. The Vorthak vessels looked like giant metal spears covered in weapons. The crystalline ships were beautiful but deadly, made of glowing crystal that could cut through any known material. Together, they formed a ring around the blue planet. Incoming transmission, Minji reported. Put it on screen, Deho ordered. The face that appeared was nightmare fuel. War Master Thexmore of the Vorthak Empire had gray skin covered in scars, red eyes, and teeth like knives. Behind him stood a crystalline being whose body sparkled with dangerous light. Humans of Earth. Thexmore's voice was like grinding metal. I am War Master Thexmore. This is Crystal Singer Veltar of the Collective. We represent the new Galactic Council. You will surrender immediately and submit to integration into our order. Integration? Kim whispered. What does that mean? Your species has been hiding for too long, the alien continued. The galaxy has changed. We now control all space. Your isolation ends today. You will open your planet to our ships and accept our authority. You have 1 of your hours to comply. The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in silence. Counselor Han needs to see this, Daiho said. Han Ji-won was Earth's last remaining diplomat, someone who remembered how to talk to aliens. She was also one of the few people who knew all of humanity's secrets from the Void Wars. Sir, Sora said carefully, should I begin powering up the defense systems? What defense systems? Minji asked. We haven't built any weapons in 200 years. We focused on hiding, not fighting. Deho looked at Admiral Kim, who had a strange expression on his face. The old man was almost smiling. Power up everything, Sora, Kim said quietly. It's time to show our guests what humanity learned during our little vacation. Sir? Sora looked confused. You heard the Admiral, Deho said, though he wasn't sure what Kim was planning. Prepare the ship for battle, and send a message to the Seoul Defense Network. Tell them to ready all vessels. All vessels? Minji asked. Sir, we only have a few dozen ships. They have hundreds. Kim's smile got wider. Actually, we have exactly one ship that matters, this one, the Seoul's Defiance. Outside the window, the alien fleet waited for humanity's surrender. They had no idea what they had just awakened. After 2 centuries of peace, Earth was about to remind the galaxy why humans had been so feared during the Void Wars. But this time would be different. This time, humanity had learned things that would make the aliens wish they had never found Earth. The hour was almost up. Lieutenant Commander Choi Hyun-woo watched the alien fleet through his tactical screen. Each enemy ship was 3 times larger than their own vessel. The Vorthak dreadnoughts bristled with plasma cannons and missile tubes. The crystalline ships glowed with energy that could slice planets in half. Sir, Hyun-woo said to Captain Deho, they're demanding an answer. What should we tell them? Deho looked at Admiral Kim, who was standing calmly beside the captain's chair. The old man seemed completely relaxed, as if facing 100 enemy warships was just another day at work. Tell them we're thinking about it, Kim said with a slight smile. Admiral, Engineer Yoon Sora called from her station. I've powered up all systems like you ordered. But sir, I'm reading things in our computer that I've never seen before. What are these probability matrices and quantum restructuring protocols? Kim's smile grew wider. Those are tools we hoped we'd never need to use, Engineer. But it seems our guests have forced our hand. Dr. Lim Jae-hyun hurried onto the bridge carrying a data tablet. His face was pale with excitement and worry. Captain, I've been reviewing the old war records. There are things about the Void Wars that weren't in the public files, things that were classified at the highest levels. What kind of things? Deho asked. We didn't retreat because we were losing the war, Lim said quietly. We were winning. We were winning so badly that our own leaders became scared of what we might become. That doesn't make sense, Lieutenant Park Minji said from her science station. The history books say we lost millions of people. We did, Lim replied. But the aliens lost billions. And near the end, humans started doing things that shouldn't have been possible. Moving objects with thought, changing the laws of physics, in small areas. Some soldiers reported that reality itself seemed to bend around human commanders. Suddenly, the ship shook as the alien fleet moved closer to Earth. On the main screen, War Master Thexmore appeared again. Humans. Your hour is up. Surrender now or we will destroy your planet. Deho stood up from his command chair. Open a channel to the entire enemy fleet. Channel open, sir, Minji reported. This is Captain Lee Deho of the Terran Defense Corps, he said in a calm, clear voice. You have violated our sovereign space. You have one standard galactic day to withdraw beyond the Kepler threshold. This is your only warning. We suggest you take it seriously. The alien War Master laughed, a sound like breaking glass. One ship against our entire fleet? You humans have become even more foolish during your isolation. We tried to be polite, Admiral Kim said quietly. He walked over to Sora's station. Engineer, please activate the Soul's Defiance's special capabilities. Sir, I don't understand these systems, Sora said, looking confused at her screens. What does reality anchor mean? And what's this dimensional phase shifter? Just press the buttons, young lady. The ship will know what to do. Sora hesitated, then pressed several glowing controls. The ship hummed with strange energy that made everyone's skin tingle. Outside, the Vorthak War Master was ordering his fleet to attack. All ships, open fire, destroy the human vessel. Hundreds of plasma bolts and crystal beams shot toward the eyed Soul's Defiance. The bridge crew braced for impact. Nothing happened. The weapons simply stopped existing when they got within a kilometer of the human ship. Not blocked or deflected, they just ceased to be, as if they had never been fired at all. What? Thexmore screamed on the view screen. Impossible, fire again. The aliens shot everything they had at the single human ship. Plasma cannons, fusion missiles, gravity bombs, crystal cutters, and all the most powerful weapons in the galaxy. Every single shot vanished before reaching its target. How are we doing that? Hyunwoo asked in amazement. We're not blocking their weapons, Kim explained calmly. We're simply editing the probability that their weapons exist. It's quite simple, really. We just decided that in our local area of space, those particular energy patterns are not allowed. You can do that? Minji stared at him. Humans can do many things, Dr. Park. During our isolation, we had time to explore the deeper mysteries of existence. We learned that reality is much more flexible than most species believe. On the screen, the alien commanders were arguing. The crystal being called Veltar was pulsing with angry light. Your weapons are useless. This is some kind of defensive technology we've never seen. Then we'll ram them, Thexmore snarled. All ships prepare for ramming speed. The massive alien dreadnoughts began accelerating toward the human ship. Each one was like a flying mountain of metal and death. Sir? Sora looked worried. They're going to crash into us. No, they're not, Kim said peacefully. He pressed another button on her console. We're going to help them change their minds. Suddenly, the three largest Vorthak ships simply stopped. They hung motionless in space, their engines firing uselessly. Engine status report. Thexmore was screaming at his crew. Sir, the engines are working perfectly, came a confused voice from his ship. But we're not moving. It's like space itself won't let us go forward. That's exactly what it is, Kim said quietly to his own crew. We've made a small adjustment to local space-time. In the area around our ship, the concept of hostile movement toward humans has been temporarily suspended. Dr. Lim was staring at his data tablet in shock. Admiral, according to these old files, humans were developing these abilities during the final months of the Void Wars. But the records say the technology was destroyed when we retreated. The technology wasn't destroyed, Doctor. It was classified and hidden. We were afraid of what we might become if we kept using these abilities. We were afraid we might accidentally become gods. On the view screen, both alien commanders were now shouting at their crews. Nothing they tried would work against the single human ship. This is impossible. Veltar's crystal body was flashing with frustration. No species in the galaxy has technology like this. Captain Deho smiled for the first time since the crisis began. That's because we're not using technology exactly. We're using something much more fundamental. Sir, Hyunwoo said from his tactical station, should I target their weapon systems? No need, Kim replied. He pressed one more button on Sora's console. Instantly, all 100 alien ships found themselves at the very edge of the solar system, millions of kilometers away from Earth. They hadn't moved through space. Space had simply rearranged itself so they were somewhere else. Status report, Thexmore was screaming. How did we get here? Sir, came a shaky voice from his crew. We didn't move. According to our sensors, we're in exactly the same position we were before. But somehow that position is now at the edge of this system instead of near the human planet. Impossible. Actually, it's quite possible, Daeho said, his voice being broadcast to the entire alien fleet. We simply decided that you would be happier somewhere else. Reality agreed with us. In the silence that followed, Admiral Kim activated the ship's general communication system. To all alien vessels, he said in a grandfatherly voice, this has been a demonstration. We harbor no ill will toward any of you, but we value our privacy. Please return to your own space and inform your governments that humanity wishes to remain undisturbed. You moved our entire fleet across the system without weapons. Veltar's voice was barely a whisper. We didn't use weapons, Kim agreed. We simply asked the universe to be a little more convenient for everyone involved. The alien fleet hung at the edge of the solar system, afraid to move. Their most powerful weapons had been useless. Their massive ships had been relocated like toys. This is not over, humans, Thexmore finally managed to say. The Galactic Council will hear of this. We hope they do, Daeho replied calmly. Please give them our regards. And remember, this was just a polite request to leave. Next time, we might be less gentle. The alien ships jumped to hyperspace, fleeing as fast as their engines could carry them. On the bridge of the Soul's Defiance, the crew sat in stunned silence. Sir, Sora finally asked, are we really that powerful? Admiral Kim looked out at the stars and sighed. Child, you have no idea what humanity became during our long sleep. And honestly, that's probably for the best. The emergency meeting of the Galactic Council happened 3 days after the fleet's humiliating return from Earth. Representatives from 200 species gathered on the neutral station of Nexus Prime, all talking at once about the human problem. War Master Thexmore stood at the center of the Great Hall, his scarred face twisted with rage and embarrassment. Around him, holographic images showed the encounter with the single human ship. They made fools of us, he roared. One ship defeated. Our entire combined fleet without firing a single shot. Crystal Singer Veltar pulsed with angry light. Their technology is beyond anything we've seen. They manipulated space itself like it was clay. High Admiral Zexthon of the Serpent Empire slithered forward on his long body. Perhaps we should leave the humans alone. If they wanted to conquer the galaxy, they would have done it already. No, Thexmore slammed his fist on the podium. They are a threat to the natural order. No single species should have such power. We must unite every fleet in the galaxy and destroy them before they decide to leave their little planet. Meanwhile, far from the council meeting, something was stirring in the depths of space. In a region where star charts showed only empty, void reality began to ripple like water. Commander Osunhee stood on the bridge of her ship, the Eternal Dawn, watching as dimensional space parted around them. Behind her vessel came thousands of others, the ghost fleet that the galaxy thought had been destroyed centuries ago. Ma'am, called her navigation officer, we're receiving the recall signal from Earth. All ships are to return to normal space immediately. Sunhee nodded grimly. She was 50 years old but looked much younger, thanks to the modifications her people had made during their long exile in parallel dimensions. Send word to all captains. After 200 years of exploration, it's time to come home. The Ghost Fleet had spent centuries traveling through alternate realities, learning secrets that no other humans knew. They had visited worlds where physics worked differently, where thought became reality, where the barriers between dimensions were as thin as paper. Back on Earth, Dr. Bai Minho was working frantically in his laboratory deep beneath Seoul. His screens showed data from the human colonies that had been rediscovered, the ones everyone thought were dead. "This is incredible," he muttered to himself, reviewing the reports. "The colonists didn't just survive, they evolved." Captain Jong Yunji entered the lab, her face grim. She commanded Earth's deep space monitoring stations and had been tracking communications across the galaxy since the alien fleet's visit. "Doctor," she said, "we have a problem. Every major species in the galaxy is mobilizing for war. They're calling it Operation Final Dawn, a coordinated attack to destroy humanity completely." "How many ships?" Bay asked without looking up from his data. "All of them. Every single warship in the galaxy. We're looking at millions of vessels." Yunji sat down heavily. "The Galactic Council has declared us a Category Omega threat, the highest possible danger level. They should have left us alone," Bay said quietly. "Do they have any idea what we've become?" On his screens, the colony reports continued to scroll past. The humans on Kepler 442b had developed collective consciousness while keeping individual minds. The Centauri colonist could manipulate matter at the atomic level with thought alone. The Vega settlement had learned to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. "Doctor," Yunji said, "there's something else. Admiral Kim wants to see you immediately. He says it's time to lift the final restrictions." Bay's hands froze over his keyboard. "The final restrictions? But those were put in place to protect the galaxy from us." "I know. But if they're bringing every ship they have, we might not have a choice." Meanwhile, in the outer colonies, something beautiful and terrible was happening. On the world of New Harmony in the Kepler system, human children were playing in their school playground. To them, it was just a game. They were rearranging the local star system to make it prettier. Little Kim Sujin, age 7, giggled as she moved a gas giant closer to the sun so its rings would sparkle more. Her friend Park Junho, age 9, helped her nudge 3 moons into a perfect triangle formation around their planet. "Look," Sujin pointed at the sky. "I made the auroras dance. Above them, the planet's magnetic field twisted into beautiful spirals, creating light shows that painted the clouds in impossible colors." Their teacher, Ms. Lee Hyejin, watched with practiced calm. These children had been born after the isolation began. To them, reshaping reality was as natural as breathing. They didn't understand that what they were doing casually would terrify any alien scientist. "Children," she called gently, "remember to put everything back when you're done playing. We don't want to confuse the space traffic." Back on Earth, Admiral Kim stood in the deepest vault beneath the defense headquarters. Around him, massive machines hummed with contained power. The systems that had kept humanity's true abilities, locked away for 2 centuries. Captain Daeho, Engineer Sora, and Dr. Lim were with him, staring at the incredible technology. "Sir," Sora said in amazement, "these machines, they're not just hiding our capabilities, they're actively suppressing them." "Yes," Kim said sadly. "When we retreated from the galaxy, we realized that human evolution was accelerating beyond our control. These systems limit how much power each human can access without training." "What happens if we turn them off?" Daeho asked. "Every human in the galaxy instantly becomes capable of reshaping reality at will," Kim replied. "It would be like giving nuclear weapons to children." Dr. Lim was reading data from a nearby screen. "Sir, according to these logs, the systems have been slowly failing for decades. That's why the colony children can do things their parents couldn't. And that's why we need to make a choice," Kim said grimly. "The aliens are coming with everything they have. If we keep the restrictions in place, we might not be able to defend ourselves. If we remove them, we become gods." Daeho finished quietly. "Reluctant gods," Kim corrected. "The worst kind." Across the galaxy, the largest military force in history was gathering. Every species that could build spaceships was sending their fleets to join the attack on humanity. The Vorthak Empire contributed their brutal dreadnoughts. The Crystalline Collective brought ships that could cut through dimensions. The Silicon hegemony added vessels made of living metal. Even species that had never worked together before were joining the alliance. Ancient enemies stood side by side, united by their fear of what humans had become. But they had no idea that their target was already watching them. Captain Zhang sat in her monitoring station, observing the alien fleets. Through quantum sensors that existed in 17 dimensions simultaneously, every ship, every weapon, every battle plan was visible to her. "They're bringing quite an army," she reported to Admiral Kim. "Estimated 12 million combat vessels plus support ships. And they all think they're the hunters," Kim said with bitter amusement. "Sir," Dr. Bay entered the command center with his latest reports. "I've been reviewing what our colonies have learned during isolation. The children aren't just playing games when they rearrange star systems. They're learning. Each generation is more powerful than the last." "How much more powerful?" Kim asked. "The latest generation, sir, they don't seem to have any limits at all. Last week, a 6-year-old on Colony 7 created a pocket universe because she wanted somewhere private to think." Kim closed his eyes and made the decision that would change everything. "Begin powering down the restriction systems," he ordered. "If they want to see what humanity has become, we'll show them." "Sir," Deho said quietly, "are we sure about this?" "No," Kim replied, "but they didn't leave us any choice. Send word to all colonies in the Ghost Fleet. The long sleep is over. It's time for humanity to wake up completely." Throughout human space, ancient machines began shutting down. Barriers that had contained human potential for 2 centuries started failing. And in the depths of space, 12 million alien warships raced toward Earth, completely unaware that they were about to face something beyond their worst nightmares. The real war was about to begin. General Nam Kiwu stood in the command center deep beneath Seoul, watching 12 million alien warships approach Earth on the holographic display. Each tiny dot represented a vessel capable of destroying cities. Together, they formed the largest military force in galactic history. "They'll be here in 6 hours," reported his aide, Colonel Park Ming-yu. "Every species in the galaxy has sent ships, even the peaceful ones." "Of course they did," Nam said quietly. "Fear makes people do stupid things." Dr. Shin Yunhei entered the command center carrying her data tablets. She was humanity's leading expert on alien psychology and had spent decades studying how other species thought and felt. "General," she said, "I've been analyzing the alien communications. They're not just afraid of our power, they're terrified of our compassion." "Explain." "Look at these intercepts." Shin pulled up recordings of alien military discussions. "They keep talking about what they call forced improvement. They're more scared of us helping them than they are of us conquering them." Nam frowned. "Why would that frighten them?" "Because conquest they understand. Every species in the galaxy knows how to deal with invaders. But we don't invade. We improve. We make things better whether they want us to or not. To them, that's more terrifying than any weapon." On another screen, reports were coming in from the outer colonies. The news was both wonderful and deeply disturbing. Commander Lee Dongmin's voice crackled over the communication system. He was leading humanity's Pacification Corps, teams sent to help struggling civilizations throughout the galaxy. "General, we've completed operations in the Rigel sector. The Mantis Federation's civil war has been resolved." "How?" Nam asked. "We edited out their capacity for violence against their own species. They can still defend themselves from external threats, but they literally cannot harm another Mantis being." The fighting stopped immediately. "And their reaction?" "They're grateful but disturbed. They understand that we helped them, but they also realize we changed something fundamental about who they are. Some of them are calling us saviors. Others are calling us monsters." Similar reports flooded in from across the galaxy. The aquatic Concord's polluted oceans had been cleaned overnight, their industrial processes mysteriously becoming perfectly efficient. The hive cluster's overcrowded worlds had been restructured, with new land masses simply appearing to give them room to grow. Every intervention was helpful. Every intervention was successful. Every intervention was done without permission or consultation. "Sir," Colonel Park said nervously, The alien fleet is beginning to coordinate their final approach. They're forming battle groups around our solar system. Nam nodded and activated the global communication system. All human settlements, this is General Nam. Execute Protocol 7. Full awakening authorized. Across human space, the last of the restriction systems shut down. For the first time in 2 centuries, humanity's true capabilities were completely unleashed. The effects were immediate and profound. On Earth, ordinary people suddenly found themselves capable of impossible things. Mrs. Choi Young-mi, a baker in Busan, accidentally wished her bread would bake faster and discovered she could manipulate time in her kitchen. Mr. Kim Dong-hae, a teacher in Incheon, got frustrated with a broken hologram and fixed it by thinking the right components into existence. Children, who had been playing simple games of imagination, suddenly realized they could make their fantasies real. Adults who had lived normal lives found themselves understanding the deepest secrets of the universe. But humanity had been preparing for this moment for 200 years. Every person had been educated about their potential. Every child had been taught responsibility along with reading and mathematics. Remember, Dr. Shin announced over the global network, power without wisdom is destruction. Use your abilities to help, never to harm. Meanwhile, the alien fleet was beginning their attack. War Master Thexmore commanded the central battle group, his massive dreadnought bristling with every weapon known to galactic science. All ships prepare for final assault, he broadcast to the 12 million vessels. We will overwhelm them with sheer numbers. The aliens opened fire with everything they had: plasma beams that could melt moons, gravity weapons that could collapse stars, dimensional cutters that sliced through space itself. The combined firepower was enough to sterilize 100 worlds. None of it reached Earth. The weapons simply disappeared, not blocked or destroyed, but edited out of existence by millions of human minds working in perfect harmony. Every person on the planet contributed a tiny amount of their power to the defense, making it effortless. Impossible, Thexmore screamed. Fire everything, all weapons, maximum power. But something even stranger was happening to his fleet. Ships began reporting system failures, but not the kind they expected. Sir, his tactical officer reported in confusion, our weapons are changing. What do you mean changing? The plasma cannons are producing flowers, sir. Beautiful flowers. And the missile tubes are launching what appears to be sheet music. Across the alien fleet, weapons were being gently converted into harmless alternatives. Warships found their hulls covered in gardens. Battle stations discovered their gravity bombs had become gravity massage devices that made the crew feel wonderfully relaxed. This is a nightmare. Crystal Singer Veltar's voice rang out over the communication channels. They're not destroying us, they're improving us. It was true. Human teams led by Dr. Shin were methodically working through the alien fleet, upgrading their technology, cleaning their air systems, fixing medical problems in their crews, and generally making everything better. The Vorthak warriors found their aggression centers gently dampened. They could still fight when necessary, but the constant rage that had driven their species for millennia simply faded away. For the first time in their history, they felt peace. The crystalline beings discovered their painful electrical discharges had been converted to beautiful light shows that didn't hurt anyone. They retained all their power but lost the ability to use it harmfully. Sir, Thexmore's communications officer called out, we are receiving a message from the humans. General Nam's face appeared on screens throughout the alien fleet. He looked tired but kind, like a grandfather dealing with misbehaving children. Greetings, representatives of the galactic species, he said calmly. You came here to destroy us, but we have chosen to help you instead. Your weapons have been converted to peaceful purposes. Your medical systems have been upgraded. Your life support is now perfect, and your food will never again cause illness or hunger. You had no right, Thexmore roared. You gave us the right. When you brought weapons into our home, Nam replied gently. But don't worry. We haven't harmed anyone. We've only made things better. Better according to who? Veltar demanded. According to the fundamental principles of existence, Nam said. Less suffering, more joy, greater efficiency, improved health. These are universal goods that benefit everyone. The alien commanders realized the horrible truth. Humanity wasn't conquering them through force. They were conquering them through kindness. They were making the galaxy dependent on human intervention by solving every problem, fixing every flaw, improving every system. We don't want your improvements. High Admiral Zexthan of the Serpent Empire hissed over the communication channel. That's unfortunate, Nam said sadly, because you're going to get them anyway. We've tried leaving the galaxy alone. We've tried isolation. But you've shown us that you cannot govern yourselves responsibly. You build weapons instead of hospitals. You wage wars instead of growing food. You choose suffering when joy is possible. So what happens now? Bexmore asked, though he was afraid to hear the answer. Nam's expression grew stern. Now we take responsibility for your welfare, whether you want us to or not. All across the galaxy, human ships began appearing near every major world. Not warships, but vessels filled with doctors, teachers, engineers, and social workers. They didn't attack planets, they simply began improving them. The Galactic Alliance had come to destroy humanity. Instead, they had triggered humanity's final evolution from a hidden species into the galaxy's unwanted but inevitable caretakers. The war was over. The real nightmare was just beginning. President Yu Sang-hoon stood in the Oval Office of the Earth Government Building, looking out at Seoul's skyline. It had been 30 days since General Nam delivered his ultimatum to the galaxy. 30 days for other species to prove they could govern themselves responsibly. They had failed. Madam President, Admiral Huang Minjae entered the office with his daily report. His face was grim. The situation is getting worse. The Vorthak Empire has split into 7 warring factions. The Crystalline Collective is having a civil war. 3 major trade routes have collapsed into piracy. Yu sighed deeply. She was 62 years old and had hoped to spend her presidency managing Earth's peaceful isolation. Instead, she had become the person who would decide the fate of the entire galaxy. What about the refugee situation? She asked. Worse every day. We have 17 million alien ships requesting asylum in human space. They're fleeing the chaos in their own territories and begging for our protection. Dr. Ko Ji-young knocked and entered the office. She was humanity's chief philosopher-scientist and had spent decades helping design their species' evolutionary path. Her job was to think about the big questions that came with ultimate power. Madam President, Ko said quietly, the Moral Council has reached a decision. We cannot allow the suffering to continue. And the price of stopping it? The end of galactic independence. If we intervene, we'll have to stay involved forever. There will be no going back to isolation. Yu walked to her desk and picked up the communication device that would broadcast to every world in the galaxy. The weight of it felt enormous in her hands. Has anyone found an alternative? She asked. We've run millions of simulations, Ko replied. Every scenario where we don't intervene results in the collapse of galactic civilization within 50 years. Billions of beings will die. Entire species will go extinct. And if we do intervene, galactic civilization continues and flourishes. No wars, no poverty, no preventable suffering, but also no real freedom for any species except humans. Admiral Huang pulled up holographic displays showing the chaos spreading across the galaxy. President, I have to ask, are we sure this isn't what we wanted all along? Did we plan for this to happen? Yu shook her head sadly. No, Admiral. This is our worst nightmare coming true. We never wanted to rule anyone. We just wanted to be left alone. Then why don't we just leave? Go to another galaxy and start over? Dr. Ko answered that question. Because we're human. We can't watch suffering and do nothing about it. It's not in our nature. The moment we became capable of helping everyone, we became responsible for everyone. A chime sounded, indicating an urgent message. The holographic display showed Captain Zhang Yunji from the Deep Space Monitoring Station. Madam President, Zhang said, we're detecting massive civilian casualties in the Andromeda Spiral. The war between the Silicon hegemony and the Organic Alliance has reached the refugee camps. Millions of non-combatants are dying. How long until we could intervene? You asked. If we expand the silent veil to include that sector, about 30 seconds, we could stop the fighting immediately. You closed her eyes and made the decision that would define humanity's future and the galaxy's fate. Do it. Expand the veil to encompass all inhabited systems. Begin immediate pacification operations. Yes, ma'am. As the silent veil expanded across the galaxy at faster than light speeds, you activated the communication device. Her message would reach every planet, every ship, every intelligent being in known space. Members of the former Galactic Council, she began, her voice steady despite the weight of what she was about to say. We told you not to wake us. We retreated not from weakness, but from responsibility we were not ready to bear. You have now seen what we have become during our isolation. We are no longer Homo sapiens. We have evolved beyond your understanding of life, consciousness, and reality itself. We can reshape matter with thought, traverse dimensions at will, and our children dream new universes into existence. But evolution is not just about power. It is about responsibility. We withdrew because we knew that our very presence would fundamentally alter the natural development of galactic civilization. We hoped you would grow, learn, and mature in our absence. Instead, you chose to wake us. You have forced our hand. As of this transmission, humanity officially assumes stewardship of this galaxy. This is not conquest. This is parenting. You will be protected, guided, and nurtured until such time as you can demonstrate the wisdom to govern yourselves. Your wars are over. Your suffering ends now. Your independence, and that is something you will have to earn back. We are sorry it came to this, but you shouldn't have awakened humanity. Final transmission ends. President Yu Sang-hoon, Earth Ascendancy, Terran Protectorate, Galactic Sector 001. As the message ended, the transformation began. Across the galaxy, human shepherd ships materialized in every star system. They were beautiful vessels that looked more like crystalline flowers than warships, but their power was absolute. Wars stopped instantly as combatants found their weapons converted to medical supplies. Pirates discovered their ships could only function as rescue vessels. Dictators woke up with an irresistible urge to improve their people's lives. On the war-torn world of Kepler 438b, former enemies sat in confused peace as human social workers helped them design new governments. Children who had known only conflict played in parks that had appeared overnight where battlefields used to be. Sir, Admiral Huang reported, watching the galaxy-wide transformation. It's working. Casualties have dropped to 0. Food production is up 300%. Medical care is now available to every being in the galaxy. And their reaction? You asked. Mixed. The younger generations seem happy. The older ones are resistant to the changes. Dr. Ko pulled up reports from the monitoring stations. The children are adapting fastest. Human and alien children are already playing together on dozens of worlds. To them, this is just how things are now. What about the leaders who opposed us? War Master Thexmore is running a refugee assistance program on his homeworld, Admiral Huang said with amazement. Crystal Singer Veltar is teaching art to mixed species classes. They remember their anger, but they can't seem to access it anymore. We didn't take away their emotions, Dr. Ko explained. We just made it impossible for them to choose destructive options. They can feel frustrated or sad, but they cannot express those feelings through violence or cruelty. Years passed. The galaxy, that had once been torn by constant warfare, became a paradise of peace and prosperity. Alien species advanced rapidly under human guidance, achieving technological and social breakthroughs they never could have managed alone. But it came at a price that some found unbearable. On the world of New Vorthak, former warriors sat in perfect cities, their every need met, their lives extended by centuries through human medical technology. They were safe, healthy, and utterly powerless to make any decision that might harm themselves or others. It's a beautiful prison, one elderly Vorthak said to his grandson. watching human children play with alien children in the perfect parks. Is it really a prison if no one suffers? The young Vorthak asked. The old warrior had no answer. In the end, humanity had achieved something unprecedented in galactic history. They had created a civilization without war, without poverty, without preventable death. Every being in the galaxy was fed, housed, educated, and cared for. They had also created a civilization without choice. The galaxy had wanted gods. They got parents instead. And like all children, they would spend the rest of their existence wondering if they would ever be trusted to make their own decisions again. On Earth, President Yu stood in her office, now expanded to overlook not just Seoul, but holographic displays of every world in human care. She was no longer just a planetary leader. She was the grandmother of 1 trillion alien beings who would never again have to face the consequences of their own choices. It was everything humanity had tried to avoid. It was everything they had become responsible for. It was the price of being powerful and caring at the same time. The galaxy was safe, happy, and prosperous. The galaxy was also no longer free. And that, you realized, was the most human tragedy of all. To save everyone by taking away the very thing that made life worth living. Choice.